Welcome. We're going to answer this question before us. Let's begin by giving it a read. It says, if sine of x is equal to 3 on 5, and x is between pi on 2 and 3 pi on 2, find cos of x and tan of x. Okay, the first thing that we need to recognize when faced with a problem like this is the fact that we're using our Pythagorean identity. And remember, our Pythagorean identity is the following. I'm going to write it out like this. It's also important, and this is just a bit of a side note, that when we write sine squared of x, that's the same thing as saying sine of x all squared. So that is the same as that. Okay, so once we've done that, the next thing we're going to do is sub in our values. So we've been told that sine of x is equal to 3 on 5. So I can put that here, and I can square it, plus cos squared of x is equal to 1. This is going to end up being 9 on 25 plus cos squared of x is equal to 1. This is going to be cos squared of x is equal to 1 minus 9 on 25. So as you can see, I'm solving it for that cos. That means cos squared of x. Now, this is where I want you to become quick at doing this. You shouldn't have to do this next step. 1 is the same as 25 on 25. And we're minusing 9 on 25 from that. So that means we get cos squared of x is equal to 16 on 25. You can see how you would ideally just want to go straight to that step. I'm, of course, going through this a bit slower, but you want to become quite efficient and at doing these questions. Now, we want to get cos by itself, so I'm going to have to square root both sides, which means I'm going to get plus or minus the square root of 16 on 25. Cos of x is equal to plus or minus 4 on 5. Because remember, you're just squaring the top and squaring the bottom there. Now, this is where you've got to be careful. Is it positive or negative? It can't be both. It cannot be both. So this is where you've got to be careful and determine whether it's positive or negative. Okay, so how can we determine whether it's positive or negative? To do this, what we're going to do is consider the domain that we've been given. So you want to come up here and you want to look at the domain that we've been given. We've been told that that is our domain. If we draw our unit circle here, it doesn't have to look good, just a real rough run. We're going from pi on 2 to 3 pi on 2. That means we're looking at our second and third quadrant. Now, you can kind of see in my second and third quadrant, cos is always negative, isn't it? So it's quite clear straight away that I'm going to end up with cos of x has to be equal to the negative 1. It has to. Because in my second and third quadrant, I only have negative cos values. You can also think about this in terms of this as well. If we come back up here for a second. As you can see, I'm told that sine of x is equal to 3 on 5. So that means it's up here. So that means if we were to draw this out, I'm kind of dealing with something that looks like that, aren't I? That's what I'm dealing with. And this here is 3 on 5. And do you see how this value here must be a negative x value? That must be a negative x value. We know that the length of this right here is 1. So by using the Pythagorean identity, all we're saying is that this length here, from here to here, that's 3 on 5. And now we want to figure out what this length is. And we've just figured that out. It's negative 4 on 5. So that's what we're doing here. That's how we've used the Pythagorean identity. That's why this squared plus this squared is equal to 1. It's just Pythagoras. That's all we're doing here. And hopefully you can see by looking at the domain and recognizing that we're in our second and third quadrant, our cos has to be negative. Okay, now we continue on. We now need to figure out what our tan is going to be. And we know how to figure out what our tan is simply the sine over the cos. Now, if our sine of x is equal to, now I've already forgotten what it was. What was it? It was 3 on 5. We're going to divide that by our cos, negative 4 on 5. Then remember, stay, change, flip. Now we can cancel This will cancel with that. And what we're going to end up with is -3 on 4 is my tan of x value. Let's give that a highlight. Perfect. And that's how you answer that question. So we come back to the top and we just double check that we've done everything it wanted. It wanted us to solve for cos of x and tan of x. We have done so. We've made sure that we've found the correct quadrants, which tell us the sign that we're in, and we're all done. So hopefully you found this useful and you feel comfortable with using the Pythagorean identity.